for people who are joining, who are aspiring to be data scientists or have already picked up organizations who have data science roles.
Hello and welcome everyone to the next episode of the Analytics India Magazine podcast featuring AIM Leaders Council members Simulated Reality. Today we have with us the Deputy Vice President Analytics at Piramal Housing Finance, Deepika Kaushal. Welcome Deepika, how are you today?
I'm great, thank you. Thank you for inviting me over. It's a great pleasure to be here.
Fantastic. Today we are going to talk about a subject that many are curious about. Many students are pursuing a career in data science analytics, considering the job opportunities that are presented to them. But many are curious as to what happens when they enter this thing, what to expect when a couple of these things. So can you, to start off with, right, can you walk us through what the journey of a data scientist or an analytics professional looks like the first time they kind of enter the company? What does the first day look like, the first week, the first month, and then maybe we can talk more in detail about the subject.
Yeah, okay. So data science is a very evolving field, right? So whatever is relevant at present, maybe it might not be relevant 1 year down the line. So for a person who's joining from campus these days, all the candidates are pretty smart. I mean, during my college days, I didn't hear of Python, and there was no proper curriculum. These days, everybody knows about what do I need to do. People are creating models on their own, and then because there are so many resources available, they're creating the models on their own and presenting all these in an interview. But when you come to actual life, when it comes to an organization, it's very different. It is not that easy that you'll just come simply, and because everybody fancy these models only. When people talk about data science, it's models. It's not really models. There are a lot of things in a data science domain, because there is data engineering, there is data visualization, you have decision sciences, you have people who are modelers who are creating those fancy models, right? And for a person who's joining an organization, if you ask me, it's really overwhelming at first, because data science is not only about some mathematical jargons and creating models about it. It is about understanding your maths, understanding stats, and business. A collaboration of all three is a sweet spot of data science. And whenever a person joins, he has to keep all these three things in mind, that I have to be really good at all three things. I'll not specifically say that you have to be very good technically, and maybe business wise it's okay even if you're fine. It doesn't really matter. Everything matters. For a person who is joining, he should be able to first of all create relationships, understand how the organization works, who are your stakeholders, what are they really, what are the outcomes which matter, right? Obviously get a good grip of things, of the technologies you're working on, you are supposed to work on. First few weeks, I think, will be mostly about that. As in, when you start growing in an organization, it gets a little mature, people will start expecting outcomes from you. And these outcomes will be in terms of what is the advantage an analytics is bringing to me, right? It is not just there is a capability I'm creating, it's very good, see, it's a best in class which I have created, but if you can't use it, it's practically not usable at all. So for people who are joining, who are aspiring to be data scientists or have already picked up organizations who have data science roles, be good technically for sure. You have to get your hands on, definitely on Python, on basic machine learning models. Second thing, once you join the organization, start getting into the business. If you are in CPG, you are in lending, you are in any domain, you have to understand what matters in that domain. Also, basic statistics people should be very good with. Right?
Okay.
Yeah.
What I'm hearing is that there's a lot of misconceptions as to what to expect, and I think probably I also joined as a data scientist right after my campus. I think it's not just a first data science job, it's also a first job. There's a lot of nerves around what to expect and these kind of things, right? At the same time, I've seen two different, some people are really nervous, some people are just like, ready to get on and do that. At the same time, considering these misconceptions, right, and some of the expectations from what they are going to be doing actually when they enter delivery teams, what are some of the difficulties that they might face, right? Especially considering some of the skills that you have mentioned, and not all skills are trained in college. In fact, very few colleges train I would believe that very few colleges train students to become ready for the real world and work in delivery teams. So what are some of the difficulties they expect, you know, as soon as they enter delivery teams, start interacting, work with clients and all of that, and how did you overcome it, or how do people kind of overcome that?
Okay. So in terms of difficulties, I think the main thing which happens is your gap in expectations, right? Stakeholders are expecting something else, we are giving something else, or maybe we are not able to understand what are they asking us, right? So articulation of problem is a major thing, right? Because stakeholders don't know what all could be solved through analytics, and typically our new data scientists, I would want to just implement some model, right? So the main crux of situation is you have to do problem solving. It's not about creating X model, Y model, or do something about it. It is about, are you able to solve a problem via X, Y, Z means, right? It could be a mathematical function, it could be a simple descriptive analytics, it could be a decision science problem. And then modeling will come towards once you are done understanding the data, understanding all the trends, and then you think a model would fit in, which will help you predict something, will matter the most, right? So, the way they can overcome the difficulty, like gap in expectation, is understanding your stakeholders, right? What exactly they are asking the analyst to do. Formulate that problem, fix a scope, and then think of deploying it, or maybe how to solve for it, right? And the best part is keep your stakeholders apprised. Rather than presenting a solution at the end of 2 months, you are breaking it out into milestones or smaller pieces, and you are sharing that this milestone number 1 is solved. Milestone number 2 is there. So at least they are also apprised that what are you solving for, and it's not after 2 months suddenly I'm seeing that this is not the output I'm looking at.
I think some of the things that you're saying are solutions directly, but I think what some of the students might face is a difficulty in understanding what these solutions exactly mean, or what do they have to do, right? So for instance, you said that, you know, you have to understand context, understand business problems, break it into milestones, achieve them. I think it's a very strategic approach to it. What they would like to understand is essentially, what does that exactly mean? So when you're saying understanding a business context, communicating, or understanding for their communication, I think a lot of this has to do with soft skills, being able to be confident in terms of speaking with clients and these kind of things. I don't think at least I was not introduced to the client in the first 2-3 months. Over a period of time it came, and my seniors kind of got into the role and they did it. But in terms of this communication, understanding the problem statements and other soft skills, can you break it down for them as to what they can do to achieve that? Because breaking a milestone is a good advice, but how to do that? Understanding or communicating yourself well, being confident, it's a good thing, but can you break it down a little bit?
I think, initially, for stepping into the shoe of a data scientist who's communicating everything on their own is very overwhelming. It might not happen initially in the first stage. I would advise, have a buddy, right? This is what communication matters. You need to have buddies across in your team, in your client's team as well, right? Who can help you understand the domain, what your clients or maybe the stakeholders, what are they working on, what are their challenges, right? And what serves them. And also, obviously, whenever a person is joining right away from campus, he's not expected to do everything on his own. He'll always have a senior who'll guide him, right? So again, following the senior very closely, because this is what I've seen with people right out of college. Every bigger project, right, is divided into smaller groups or smaller chunks, right? And all these chunks are divided amongst the teammates, that you are responsible for part number 1, somebody is responsible for part number 2, right? So stitching all these things together usually is the onus of a lead, right? Who's connecting all the dots and then bringing up the final output. For people who are joining new, it will be very good in case they can end-to-end follow the cycle, right? Rather than just focusing on my thing, I'm responsible for only a smaller chunk, number 1. I'm giving the output. Now it's not my job, whatever happens to the output. So the best advice is, please get involved into end-to-end life cycle of a project, be it your job, be it somebody else's. Start closely following how your lead is stitching the dots together, right? How is he presenting, right? What are the objections or the questions raised by the stakeholders, and how is he responding, right? This is the best way to learn, because in case I tell you that please take a coaching for a domain coaching doesn't exist. You have to pick up on your job, right? For technical skills, you can still have, for Python, for machine learning, for R, you can still have courses, right? But
Why
for
do
domains,
domain knowledge does, like
See,
for example,
domain
if
knowledge-
someone joins in Piramal Finance, they have to be trained on BFSI concepts, right? Like an engineer who can code or a data
Right.
scientist, they knowledge of finance and BFSI or the life cycle of let's say investments, so these kind of things, many of the concept there should be, right?
there should be, see, everybody trains, right, on a key terms, right?
Yeah.
Whenever I also joined Piramal and I had no idea on finance, but there are few terms which we use and I picked it up, but there is no ready reckoner as such. But for training, for people who are joining from campus, usually we prepare a training program, right, on these concepts, but how to utilize them, right? So in case I say NPA is this, which is bad. I mean, what is the cutoff, right? Beyond which you say it's a completely, it will not work, right? Versus there is a threshold, right? And similarly, there are several other things, right?
Yeah.
What lending rate is good, what is not, right? So all these things matter, and it will only come up with your experience, right? So
Correct.
terms you will know, but how to utilize. I'll give you one example. In my initial years of my work, I was working for a CPG firm, obviously on a vendor side, and there we had to do a clustering, and it was a new thing at that time. Analytics was evolving then. We were trying to solve through best statistical way. We picked up SPSS then, and we thought we will create good clusters of how can you group the beverages market together, and all these countries we were grouping together, and the result was perfectly statistically very significant. But when we presented to the business, they said the countries you're grouping together are very different, right? I cannot have a single strategy for them. And then I realized that your only statistically significant models might not work, because it has to be aligned with the business. The way I was grouping it might not be right? But it makes a statistical sense, but in business outcomes, it doesn't, right? So this is where I started off with my statement that business knowledge is very important, right?
Yeah.
So you can have those hypothesis testing in place, you can have your predictive models in place, but unless it is meaningful, business can utilize and deploy it, it will not work.
One of the things that stuck with me from your previous answer is the onus lies on the lead, right? I've been working for almost 7-8 years, and I've had my fair share of bad managers, good managers, and the kind of role it plays is very crucial. At the same time, it's not in your hand, especially if you are joining a company which is a big IT or a big boutique analytics service provider. Some of the managers are not in your hand, and then that kind of gets out of hand in terms of your progress. I mean, I had a manager, who kind of, had no knowledge about data science, but they were very good. They came from technical backgrounds, but overall their people management, I felt, was questionable. At the same time, I have had a manager who kind of realized the lack of, because my understanding of business context strategically was good, but at the same time my problem was other that I couldn't visualize data sets really well, and when to kind of pick from where and this kind of thing. But then that manager kind of made sure he handheld me, because I don't think handholding is always bad. Sometimes it should be contextual, it shouldn't be one strategy. But then there was handholding, and then soon at a point of time I almost virtually led a team. But what happens if there is a bad manager? Like, it's just not working out. It's just a shitty manager who is, you're even if your skills are not that good, doesn't hold your hand, or you're lacking somewhere. It's just they're always pinpointing, because I've had those managers as well. They are just looking for an error just to shout. How does a person, because you're already so nervous, you're 3 months into the job and your manager is bad. So what do they do?
So see, it's a very tricky question. If you ask me, it doesn't pertain to only data science, but any other industry, right? If you join and you don't have the manager as per your liking. So unfortunately, you can't choose your boss, right? But the way you behave with your boss, you can change that. Definitely the way you respond to him. I would suggest, in case a person is in such a tricky situation, first thing, internalize and see what's wrong, right? Because most of the times the external behavior doesn't happen just like that. There is something to do with internally how and what happens, right? Second thing, obviously seek help. Seek help from your peers, from your manager's peers, from people who are assigned as buddy to you on what to be done. Maybe I think the best case is talk to the manager one-on-one, right? So rather than contemplating, thinking, overthinking, and what's wrong with me, what's wrong with him, etc. Have a heart-to-heart conversation and understand what I need to change. In case I have to improve the performance, or maybe something in terms of the person's behavior itself is not right, and maybe manager is reacting to that, right? So I'm not saying all managers are good and we need to change all the time, but at least try what is in your control, and in case it doesn't happen, still there are options. You can change teams, you can maybe pick up a skill, maybe in case there is a lack of performance, maybe a skill set you are not fit for and you realize after 3-4 months that maybe this is not what I wanted to do, maybe something else. You can think about that. That is the easiest way.
Yeah, I think I don't know if the manager is just uncooperative and this thing, I probably just like leave because I don't know this thing, but it's very daunting, right? Leaving your first job within 3-4 months and this thing. And despite that, you can be struggling. Like even managers need to have different approaches. So for instance, I used to struggle a lot in terms of some of the coding aspect of it. Slowly I picked it up, and then I still love coding, data science. In pandas and all of that much. But at the same time, what if you're just struggling, meeting up deadlines, and it's just 4 months, 6 months, now it's 7 months. But the manager is also not helping, and it's not like you're not putting in the hard work, right? Because one of the things that now that I work with a few team members, one of the things that I believe that I don't think hard work can be taught. So if the person is hardworking, because values can't be taught, technical skills, you might need to take different approaches. But despite your hard work, you are still struggling, right, to kind of meet deadlines, and produce, especially in data science, the entire, errors are such a big thing. Even minor differences make a big this thing, and you're still making errors. Your peers are catching them, and that's why they have to stay late to finish this. What advice would you give them then? Like, they have put you on probably, what is it called?
Performance improvement program.
A performance improvement program.
Yeah.
What advice would you give them to kind of work on that?
So, for people who are facing difficulty, even I have encountered such cases in my teams across the years I've spent in data science, and this is what I've realized, that you need to put extra effort once you join an organization, especially when you are from college. Even when we switch jobs, we need to prep up, right? We usually spend that time prepping up for the new job, even at a lateral positions. People who are right out of college, though a particular technology, and people, even when they join, they tell us that, see, we don't know Python, right? We don't know R, how do we work? Give us some time. So for such people, I think in case you're already into a PIP, which is anyways very daunting, the best case is put that extra effort outside the organization, outside your office hours, right? Because in case we are not able to meet deadline, the only thing is we are not that much hands-on that we are quickly able to figure out what is the issue, right? This is what experience builds you up with, right? When you encounter something for the first time, you are overwhelmed at what is happening. But in case you spend good enough time there, then you understand, okay, next time you encounter such an issue, I have seen this, right? For such candidates, the only advice is put that extra effort. Hard work matters, but not only inside office and you are breaking your head with some problem and you are able to not solve. There are so many resources out there these days, because during my time, initially when I started off my data science career, there were not Kaggle, Analytics Vidya, etc. Data sets were not available. We did not know how to do it. There were no proper courses as such. Now you have so many courses, right? So wherever we feel that there is a performance miss, right? Something which from a technical standpoint I'm not able to understand, put that extra effort outside your office hours to bring you up to speed, right?
Yeah.
And then maybe you'll be able to sail through, because if I have already wrapped my head with certain things and so much I know, obviously it'll show in your work for sure.
Yeah, that reminds me of this podcast is very relatable. That reminds me of my journey as well. When I was not able to do that, and then I don't think they put me on that performance, this
Yeah.
thing, but they did speak with me, saying, you know what, uh, something needs to change. You need to get better. Your team is suffering because of that. They have had to this thing. I kind of used to stay back, learn a little bit more
Yeah.
coding and this thing. And now that I realize, I've become one of those old people who say that the newer generation is just useless because they don't kind of put that hard work. Because one thing I realized is that excuses are excuses. My fathers used to always say, excuses plus work not done is work not done.
Correct.
Right? So whatever it might be,
Yeah.
it may be a valid excuse as well, but the work is not done. And so that's what kind of related with me in a lot of sense, and that's why I used to just put in a lot of effort. But not being that uncle, who kind of criticizes the newer generation, uh, it's exhausting. Data science, you spend already 12 hours in the
Yeah.
office, right? I think I don't know what the answer lies to you. I mean, I don't know if it's a question, but in a lot, it's exhausting being a data. You go to your office, you have long working hours. You're probably serving a client in the US, staying up until 11 p.m. to service the changes that they suggested there 8 a.m. Despite that, then how do they kind of if still daunting, then should they just like take a step back and reconsider careers or?
Yeah, so even data science is very evolving, as you've seen, right? Initially, when I started off my career, it was SAS, and suddenly overnight, we have an open source technology called R, right?
Yeah.
And making a switch from SAS to R was very, very difficult at that stage,
Yeah.
because learning tech after 6-7 years of your career, you have to change the technology altogether, and that is be your bread and butter. And it has happened to me. There was a client, and SAS is not there. They are not paying for the license. Now, entire skill set is gone, right? How will you create any output, right? And
Yeah.
they were having their own laptops, own those RSA tokens. So we can't do some processing somewhere else and then bring the data here. That is also not possible. So initially, I was thinking again the same thing, the same shortcut method, right? Let me try something on Excel, and then I'll create a model. And then I understood that, okay, there are several steps. I'll forget those steps, right? So the only way out was either pull up your socks and learn it, or be redundant, right? So in case somebody has chosen that career, you already know it is going to evolve very fast. Even after so many years, we keep reading, right? We keep reading, we keep implementing, and it's not about that. Though you have grown senior and you don't need to code anymore. In case you're not coding anymore, I think. I don't know what the world says, it is not good for you in your career, because you will be much more valuable in case your junior asks you that I have a problem like this, and if I'm only giving gyan that you do this, and maybe it will not work. If I'm with him or her and helping, okay, let's try this, let's try that, it brings a different context, and obviously your juniors also respect you, right? So it is daunting for sure. If you've chosen this career, yes, you are ready for the changes. You have to be ready for the changes, right? And it will be throughout your life. Every 6 months, 7 months, 10 months, you see something new. So I have switched from SAS to R, and the moment I learned R nobody uses. There is a new tech called Python. You have to please pick up Python, and this is how, and this is what I have done. And obviously, many more people who are in the similar shoes of mine, they have also done that. So this is a given for data science, right? I mean, techs keep evolving, and this is what you have to live with.
There's no shortcut.
There's no shortcut to success.
And even if it is
sure.
exhausting, you
have to do
put
it.
in
You
more.
have to do it. I think.
I mean, you're paid well as a data scientist.
Obviously,
the
you
salaries
are.
good.
Yeah, obviously, for consulting, in case you choose a consulting job, right, you have to be on the go. Almost 100% of your travel time is there. You have to work 15 hours a day, and people know that this is what is given out of a career.
Yeah.
Right? So why not data science? It also has a similar baggage to carry.
Fantastic. On that note, I think it was a great nostalgic experience for me. I
Same.
wish you had given me this advice when I started out my career in data science. Probably I would have still been in data science and not chosen to study journalism. But at the same time, thank you so much. I hope this helps students and people who are aspiring to be data slash analytics professionals.
Thank you so much, Kashyap, for having me over. It was a great, obviously nostalgic experience for me as well, remembering all my times when I started off my career and how it has gone so far. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.